there was knowledge amongst a certain group of people, mostly who did business with Harvey Weinstein. There are countless women who understood that that's what happened.
Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that's been the case. Everybody has stories about some aspect of the quote-unquote casting.
Are friends with Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Who's a fellow nominee. What does a boys' night out look like?
There's a few cocktails.
A few years ago, Hollywood heavyweight Tom Hanks weighed in on the sexual abuse scandal, currently ripping through the film industry, explaining that the raft of allegations against prominent men in the entertainment business does not surprise him. But it turns out the megastar has a role in all of these and is allegedly connected to Diddy's crimes. According to The Hollywood Reporter, in 2017, the then 61-year-old actor said that he was not surprised by Hollywood's sexual harassment scandal, as he believes that P-daters are absolutely everywhere within the entertainment industry.
Like very specific knowledge of what was going on, they'll have to answer questions about, how complicit were they.
The Bridge of Spies star said, "There are a lot of reasons people do this for a living. Making a movie is a life experience that can create an awful lot of joy. You can meet the person you fall in love with, you can laugh your heads off. That's the good stuff." But despite all the good, Hanks noted that there is also a dark side to the film industry that cannot be ignored. Bad stuff can happen in a movie as well. There are some people who go into this business because they get off on having power, and the times they feel the most powerful, which is why they went into the business, are when they are hitting on somebody who's underneath them. And I don't necessarily mean completely sexually. There are P-daters absolutely everywhere, noted Hanks. The Academy Award-winning actor also shared that he is optimistic about changes being made in Hollywood, and these changes can make Hollywood a safer place. The Captain Phillips star explained, "Somebody said, is it too late to change things? No, it's never too late. It's never too late to learn new behaviors, and that's a responsibility of anybody who wants to obey a code of professional ethics." Hanks' comments come as the allegations of sexual misconduct in Hollywood continue to intensify at the time. Following the misconduct allegations surrounding then 65-year-old Weinstein, Hollywood stars including Brett Ratner, Louis C.K., and Jeremy Piven were also accused of abusing their position of power. But Hank is not himself. The award-winning actor is one of the celebrities who has been accused of pedophilia by a group of internet conspiracy theorists called QAnon. QAnon is a movement that believes that a secret cabal of elite pedophiles, led by Democrats, Hollywood celebrities, and billionaires, is running a global child trafficking ring and plotting against Donald Trump. They also believe that Trump is secretly fighting this cabal and that he will soon expose and execute them in a day of reckoning called the Storm. Sounds dramatic, yeah?
Hanks is the head of the Illuminati. No! Okay, hear me out. Think about this.
QAnon emerged in 2017 when an anonymous user named Q posted cryptic messages on the website 4chan, claiming to have access to classified information about the Trump administration and its enemies. Q's posts, or drops, were soon picked up by online communities and influencers, who interpreted and amplified them to millions of followers. QAnon has since spread to mainstream social media platforms, political rallies, and even the U.S. Congress, where some Republican candidates have expressed support for the movement. A tweet about Hanks read, "It was this precise moment that Tom Hanks knew he was F-ed, his life never the same again, and any acting legacy would forever be tarnished by island activities associated with Jeffrey Epstein. On the other hand, Ricky Gervais would be known as a genuine hero forevermore." With another posting, Tom Hanks regarding masks. Funny how the P-do doesn't respect children either. With the last one posting a clip of the actor dancing with kids before captioning, "I don't care if this is a comedy skit. How did Tom Hanks not get canceled for this?" QAnon has also targeted several celebrities with accusations of pedophilia, such as Oprah Winfrey, Ellen DeGeneres, Chrissy Teigen, and Tom Hanks. Hanks, who contracted and recovered from COVID-19 in Australia, has been accused of fleeing to Greece to escape prosecution for his crimes and of being involved in a sinister practice of harvesting a life-extending chemical from the blood of abused underage. However, it would be proper to note that these accusations are not supported by any evidence and rely on distorted interpretations of symbols, codes, and numerology. They also ignore the fact that Greece has strict laws against pedophilia and that Hanks has been a vocal advocate for children's rights and a supporter of charities such as UNICEF and the Elizabeth Glaser Pediatric AIDS Foundation. While the accusations by that organization may be too far-fetched, Hanks once admitted that he is not as good as the screens portray him sometimes, or most of the time. The actor opened up in a candid chat with the Herald Sun and was quizzed on what makes him angry. He admitted that anyone who takes advantage of his good nature will have to face the consequences. "I'll tell you this, if anybody takes advantage of my good nature, they'll have hell to pay," he stated. "Anyone who has done it will say, 'Oh, he's not that nice a guy.'" He expanded on that, saying, "Because when that happens, the hammer comes down and it's relentless. I take care of business when it's got to be taken care of." Although Hanks did reveal that he doesn't get angry very easily, it would have to take a lot for him to go mad. "Listen, I'm 63 years old," he continued at the time. "There is nothing that you can say that will insult me at all. Absolutely nothing. It bounces off me." Hanks previously left an entire room of A-listers in tears at the Golden Globe Awards in January 2020 as he accepted the Cecil B. DeMille Award and began paying homage to his wife, Rita Wilson, and kids Colin, Elizabeth, Chet, and Truman. He told the crowd, "A man is blessed with a family sitting down like that, a wife who is fantastic in every way, who has taught me what love is."
A man is blessed with a family sitting down front like that. I can't tell you how much you're loved.
The actor later praised his kids who are braver and stronger and wiser than their old man is, and a loving group of people who have put up with me being away for months and months and months at a time. "I can't tell you how much your love means to me." Beginning to tear up, he then joked, "It's the cold that is making this happen. I swear to God, I'm not nearly this emotional at home." But with what has been going on with Diddy, TD Jakes, and the rest of the pack, some people are now saying that the age of the Hollywood star is over. In a media landscape dominated by franchises big and small, lead actors are only as relevant as the popularity of their characters allows them to be. While the current state of stardom in Hollywood can be debated endlessly, there still remains a generation of older actors who rose to fame in the heyday of the Hollywood superstar. Tom Hanks is one such actor who became a star in the 1980s thanks to a string of leading roles in well-received comedies. From there, he gradually transitioned to dramatic roles that earned him 2 consecutive Academy Awards for Best Actor and established Hanks as a serious character actor in a leading man's shoes. After the start of the 2000s, the actor changed up his game once again as he started to take on older statesman roles in well-received films, from 2002's Catch Me If You Can to 2016's Sully. Thanks to his acclaimed filmography and affable, everyman persona, Hanks has had an enduring impact on 21st century pop culture and the current zeitgeist. It can be difficult to pinpoint what exactly takes an actor out of the realm of a successful leading man and turns him into a genuine Hollywood superstar. Some actors like Leonardo DiCaprio seem almost destined for cinematic greatness, while others like Johnny Depp seem to accidentally stumble into superstardom. For Tom Hanks, the transition from reliable leading man to confirmed A-lister started when he gave up doing hit comedies and decided instead to focus on moving dramas that have something to say about the state of the world and the human condition. In a 2001 interview for the Oprah magazine, Hanks mentioned that he tries to pick projects based on the 3 E's, so he makes movies that serve to entertain, educate, and enlighten his audience. Of course, it is not always possible to hit all 3 marks in the same movie, as Hanks readily admitted in an interview with Film Companion when talking about his 2016 film Inferno. According to the actor, popular entertainment does often land in this place where all those 3 things are brought about by nothing more than a well-made movie. And that is the kind of cinema that Hanks wants to continue to support in a franchise-obsessed industry.
I think that because it deals with this concept that we can all relate to, which is overpopulation.
The actor has admitted to going out of his way to fit in his characters. For example, on paper, there's nothing about 2000's Castaway that feels like it should work as a blockbuster film. Almost the entire story takes place on a deserted island with a single inhabitant named Chuck Nolan, played by Hanks. Plus, most of the minimalistic dialogue is directed at Wilson, a volleyball that quite frankly looks creepier than reassuring. Yet the story works thanks to a superlative central performance by Hanks. Whether desperately scrounging for food, trying to fashion a home out of airplane wreckage, or knocking out his own tooth, every move made by the actor feels sincere and heart-wrenching. A major part of that sincerity comes through in the way we see Hank's character go from looking like a tubby, well-fed man to a skinny, weather-hardened scavenger after years of living alone on the island. To achieve such a dramatic transformation, first Hanks put on extra pounds to portray the early part of Chuck's stay on the island. After that, he had to lose more than 50 pounds in less than a year to film the second half of the movie. In an interview with EW, the actor admitted that such extreme working conditions were a burden to get through, but the critical and commercial acclaim Castaway received probably helped soothe the painful memories. But more than any other film in his career, 1994's Forrest Gump established Hanks as one of cinema's most beloved stars thanks to the immensely likable persona of his titular character. Hanks was fully committed to preparing for the role of Forrest Gump. But a major part of selling the character to the audience meant ensuring that Forrest's childhood persona also felt authentic. The younger Forrest was played by fledgling 8-year-old actor Michael Connor Humphreys. For the story to work, it was essential for Humphreys and Hanks to sound like the younger and older version of the same character. To that end, as Hanks told Graham Norton in an interview, he decided to learn to speak in Humphreys' accent rather than trying to make the young actor copy his. The method worked, and Hanks' accent, mined from the deepest parts of Mississippi that Humphreys was from, added another layer of authenticity to his portrayal of Forrest, while simultaneously making it easier for the audience to divorce his character from other roles that Hanks had played in the past. But despite being known as a nice guy, Hanks does have his bad days. In and around Hollywood, Hanks is widely known as one of the nicest people, someone who gets along with everyone. It's thus all the more surprising to discover that he is, in fact, locked in a decades-old feud with another well-known Hollywood sweetheart, the Fonz himself, Henry Winkler. Winkler was already a well-established celebrity and was moving into working behind the camera when Hanks was still an up-and-coming star. Hanks was attached to star in 1989's Turner and Hooch, which Winkler was supposed to direct. In an interview with Andy Cohen, Winkler explained that he had already started on the project and worked for 13 days as a director when he was summoned to the office of the film studio executive, Jeffrey Katzenberg, and summarily dismissed. Hinting those disagreements with the film's leading star was the main reason behind his firing, Winkler stated, "I got along great with that dog, love that dog," referring to Hanks's canine co-star. It's about as heated a fight as you can possibly expect between two men who are known for their ultra-genial dispositions. In fact, the so-called feud might already be over, as Winkler told TMZ in 2020. "I don't have a feud with Tom Hanks. What everybody says and what is true are two different things. Feuds apart, and just like Diddy, Hanks enjoys regular colonoscopy parties. There's a popular urban legend about Hollywood that the lavish parties thrown by the biggest movie stars on the planet are filled with so much debauchery that the attendees are constantly searching for a new kind of high. In the case of Tom Hanks, a personal hobby that he shares with some of his closest friends is holding regular colonoscopy parties. While the term might seem like it could be a fitting title for a possible X-rated movie Hanks did as a penniless young actor, the colonoscopy parties are relatively recent things. Since moving into middle age, Hanks has been teaming up with Martin Short, Steve Martin, and a few other close friends to have a private party before getting their colonoscopy exams done together.
You guys and Tom Hanks and one other friend,
yes,
you get together every other year for a colonoscopy party.
The legendary comedy duo told Jimmy Kimmel that the party includes stocking up on liquids and avoiding solid food in preparation for the impending exams. Thanks to all the bowel clearing involved, by the time the party ends, Short said, "The bathroom looks like day 14 of a carnival cruise." The members of the colonoscopy crew also share a ride to the hospital for their exams and play cards to determine who has to get the exam first. Because of how he conducts himself, Tom Hanks has been tired of the Jimmy Stewart comparisons for more than 30 years. "It's Jimmy Stewart this, Jimmy Stewart that," Hanks told Parade in 1987. "It's as big a compliment as you can get, but it's not anywhere near accurate. Yet he can't make them stop. If I had made this in 1951, I would have wanted Jimmy Stewart to play the part," Steven Spielberg told Cox News Service in 1998 while discussing Saving Private Ryan. 1 year later, in a widely reprinted piece for Knight Ridder, Elvis Mitchell asked, "Is Tom Hanks this generation's Jimmy Stewart?" Conclusion: yes. Years later, while bestowing a 2014 Kennedy Center honor on Hanks, President Obama also summoned Stewart, saying, "People have said that Tom is Hollywood's everyman, that he's this generation's Jimmy Stewart or Gary Cooper." To be mentioned alongside Stewart is, of course, a lofty comparison. It's also easy to see why Hanks might feel a bit penned in by it. Stewart's name has become a shorthand for niceness and decency for the all-American everyman. The comparison almost always refers to the Stewart of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and the Shop Around the Corner. It usually doesn't touch on Stewart's later work, the haunted men he played after serving in the Air Force in World War II. In Vertigo, Anthony Mann's westerns, and elsewhere, Stewart came to specialize in men who'd seen a little too much darkness and didn't know whether they could ever find their way back to the light. Not the sort of man. In other words, Hanks became famous for playing. However, like Jimmy Stewart, Hanks's work playing darker characters has been overshadowed by his persona as the kindest man in the room, which only grows with every release he does. In Marielle Heller's remarkable A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Hanks plays Fred Rogers, the children's TV show host who embodied kindness for multiple generations of kids. The actor isn't just playing a nice guy, he's playing the nicest guy. Yet even though Hanks keeps returning to a comfort zone of decency, he's ventured outside it more than a few times, breaking away from his nice guy persona, sometimes by degrees, sometimes radically. Yet those excursions have yielded wildly mixed results. By the second half of the 1980s, Hanks had clearly started to wonder whether he could do more than play the glib but likable leads of mainstream comedies. Splash made him a star, and films like The Man with One Red Shoe and Bachelor Party proved he could help elevate weak material. But Hanks had loftier ambitions. He made his dramatic debut, not counting the 1980 slasher film He Knows You're Alone in the Little Scene 1986 film, Every Time We Say Goodbye, the same year he found a comedy that pushed the limits of his familiar persona via Nothing in Common, in which he plays a womanizing but charming ad rep forced to grow up by his father's illness. 2 years later, he appeared in 2 films that essentially doubled as a referendum on what audiences wanted from Tom Hanks: Big and Punchline. Penny Marshall's Big features Hanks playing a kid trapped in a grown-up's body in a performance that confirmed his range extended beyond the sorts of characters he'd been playing to that point. In Punchline, Hanks plays a character in a different sort of Arrested Development. Stephen Gould, a washed-out med student whose luckless pursuit of stand-up stardom puts him on a self-destructive path. Sally Field co-stars as Lila Kritzik, a fellow aspiring comic, and her first interaction with Stephen quickly establishes him as a D. When Lila asks whether he'll watch her set, he replies, "I've got to clean my fish tank." He comes around, however, helping her with her act, developing feelings for her, then seeming to lose his mind when she doesn't return those feelings, prompting him to recreate Gene Kelly's Singin' in the Rain dance as an angry act of self-abasement on a busy New York street. Hanks commits to the scene and to the character, a hollowed-out wreck who might be more at home in a Scorsese movie. It's the film around him that's disappointing. Not only does it double as a showcase for the worst trends in 80s stand-up, come for the prop gimmickry, stay for the ethnic jokes, it can't seem to make up its mind about who Stephen is. That's the central problem when it comes to figuring out whether Hanks can play truly dark characters. Is it impossible to accept him as a bad guy, or have his bad guy movies let him down? Despite some praise for his Punchline work, the box office results clearly favored Hanks as a nice guy. Big outgrossed Punchline by around $95 million. The actor's next attempt to play a darker character, Brian De Palma's 1990 adaptation of Tom Wolfe's The Bonfire of the Vanities, clearly falls into the latter category. The film makes wild misjudgments from start to finish, but casting Hanks as Sherman McCoy, the Wall Street master of the universe, whose involvement in a hit-and-run accident becomes a focal point for New York's class, political, and racial tensions, didn't have to be one of them. Yet the film tries to make Sherman, an unreflective AH on the page, a nice guy. Rather than making Hanks bend toward the material, it reshapes itself as a Tom Hanks movie, never giving the actor a chance to stretch beyond his amiable 80s comedy persona. Even when he's talking about S-Side and waving a shotgun at some party guests, the scene more so resembles an outtake from The Money Pit. Critics savaged the film but mostly spared Hanks. In a typical review, the Chicago Tribune suggested the film was cast wrong. Seeming like a nice guy has its benefits. As if chastened, Hanks stayed away from bad guys for the rest of the 90s as he became one of the biggest stars in the world. Sure, A League of Their Own's Jimmy Dugan made one of his players cry, but he sobered up and felt bad about it eventually. The closest he came to playing a shady character is in That Thing You Do, his winning debut as a writer and director. As the music manager, Mr. White shepherds a 60s Pennsylvania band to stardom, but does little to ensure their longevity. When they fall apart, he loses interest and drifts away. He's as nice as he needs to be for as long as he needs to be, but not a moment longer. As the decade progressed, Hanks developed a specialty in playing ordinary men tested by extraordinary circumstances in films like Philadelphia, Apollo 13, Saving Private Ryan, and Cast Away. And though he played a man for whom M had become just another part of doing business in Sam Mendes' 2002 film Road to Perdition, his work as the Depression-era mob enforcer plays like an extension of that run. Sure, Sullivan isn't afraid to spill blood, but he's driven to his life of crime by the circumstances of his upbringing and embarks on a tireless case spree only after losing most of his family. At the film's end, Michael's son finds himself unable to pass judgment on his father. It's hard not to share that feeling. A few years later, the actor tried to play bad while keeping it funny. In Joel and Ethan Coen's The Lady Killers, he stars as a southern dandy con artist who tries to defraud a widow and goes to extreme measures to get the job done. Hanks is fun, drawing out the syllables of his meticulously articulated dialogue, but again, the performance outdoes the film, which tends to compete with intolerable cruelty in assessments of the Coens' weakest efforts. In the ambitious 2012 adaptation of Cloud Atlas, from the Wachowskis and Tom Tykwer, Hanks had better luck playing some of the multi-tiered story's grotesque villains. But perhaps tellingly, his focal role comes as a kind of post-apocalyptic everyman, a decent guy trying to do the right thing under trying circumstances. One of the actor's best bad guy turns happens to be in one of his worst films. James Ponsolt's timely but ridiculous 2017 adaptation of Dave Eggers' The Circle offers a hysterical spin on internet privacy and social media's political implications. Virtually nothing about it works except Hanks as Eamon Bailey, the eponymous web corporation's genial CEO. A charismatic, aggressive visionary, Bailey's Steve Jobs-like casualness masks a willingness to overstep boundaries and use people as guinea pigs. He rationalizes a dangerous global experiment as working for the greater good. Conventional ethics be damned. Addressing his lack of a dark side in a recent Taffy Brodesser-Achner profile for the New York Times, Hanks admitted he learned early on that he could use his ability to seduce a room, seduce a group of people as a way of asserting power. With Eamon, he weaponizes that ability. If Hanks is ever to create a memorable bad guy, he'll likely wear a winning smile and claim good intentions. But despite his immaculate acting skills, the actor hasn't been able to lock himself out of controversies once in a while. His Greek citizenship particularly rubbed people the wrong way, with many thinking he was planning to evade justice by bagging himself another country. Hanks, his wife, Rita Wilson, and their children were awarded honorary Greek citizenship after their work in bringing attention to a July 2018 wildfire near Athens that killed more than 100 people, according to the BBC. The couple have been visiting Greece for years and own a home on the island of Antiparos, BBC reports. Wilson also has Greek heritage, and Hanks converted to the Greek Orthodox Church. They have both expressed their love and admiration for the nation. In January 2020 at the Golden Globes, Hanks mentioned his honorary citizenship. "Greece is a haven," he said. "My family goes to Greece. I've been around the world. I've been to the most beautiful places in the world. None of them tops Greece."
Greece is a haven.
But how do you feel being a citizen?
I have
over the
questions
years?
about my honorary Greek status. Number one, do I have to serve in the army? As long as I don't have to serve in the army, I'm no good anyway.
But why settle for Greece? In 2012, there was a proposal in Greece to include behavioral disorders, such as compulsive gamblers, pyromaniacs, pedophiles, and fetishists on the list of disabilities. The idea was that the additions would enable better medical assessments, but the classifications were not meant to affect disability benefits, according to BBC and Business Insider. However, the idea drew quick outrage, including from the Greece National Confederation of Disabled People, which said in a press release that conditions like pedophilia, pyromania, voyeurism, ostentation, and SM were removed from the new disability identification table after a huge upheaval occurred throughout Greek society. Faced with the uproar, the proposal was short-lived, and pedophilia was scratched from the list a few months later. Greece's current disability assessment application, read via Google Translate, does not include pedophilia or other conditions like pyromania and SM. Instead, the application mentions conditions like deafness and blindness, and disorders like hemolytic anemia. So those suggesting Tom Hanks secured his Greek citizenship to evade justice may be overstepping, but that doesn't mean he's purely innocent either. And that's it from us today until next time. Thank you for watching!